Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pasch podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pasch.
Hi, this is Brian Pasch, and get ready for an exciting interview. I'm sitting down with Zach Billings. He's the co-founder of Wikimotive, and we're talking about all things SEO, but more importantly, how do dealers get the insights to know if their SEO is working? What are the KPIs? What's the core success metrics? Because honestly, dealers are spending money on SEO. I have no idea what they're getting. They have no way of tracking progress. And well, we got to go to Zach to get the latest insights. Zach, for dealers who are not familiar with Wikimotive, I consider you one of the founding fathers of high quality SEO in automotive retail. How many years has the company been in business?
We have been around for 15 years, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And of course, Tim Martell and you have been preaching from your soapbox that content is king, but it has to be relevant, has to be readable, has to be quality and valuable to a consumer. Google's pretty smart about crappy content. Zach, at a very high level, when dealers say, what makes your SEO strategy different than, say, a website company that they may have packaged SEO and bundled it with their paid media? Well, how do you differentiate? How do you answer that high-level question? Because I don't think most general managers understand really all the nuances of helping a website rank or organically.
Great question. So a couple of simple things. First, the SEO that most of the dealer body is used to is blog articles on, truck towing capacity and EV ranges and trim levels and things like that. When someone searches for F-150 towing capacity, they want to know the F-150's towing capacity, and they probably search Silverado towing capacity next. They're not ready to buy. That's an informational search. Our brand of SEO, our flavor of SEO, if you will, is quite simply focused on transactional keywords. So for dealer, F-150 for sale,
right.
Mach-E for sale. They are the things that are low funnel that signal the person actually wants to buy. That will impact the dealer's bottom line. It's seemingly a small differentiator, but it's an absolutely critical one to make sure that you're not getting traffic that doesn't convert, that comes from out of market. We want to make sure that it's in market, ready to go. The other piece of it is, in order to be effective, to generate rankings that matter on these transactional keywords that will bring people to your website, you have to do the heavy lifting, and that is content. Content is king. Google still says so. And you have to make sure that you're writing for consumers. You can't game the system anymore. It's not, 2009, 2010, when you could just spam keywords on a page. You need to write a great quality piece of content that a consumer would find legitimately valuable, and you have to do it uniquely for that website. So last year, we wrote over 10 million words of custom content, not a single sentence duplicated from one piece to the next or drawn from any other resource. And this year, we're on track to do well more than that. So that's it in a nutshell: transactional and the heavy lifting that actually makes the difference.
There's a lot going on about AI, and, recently, I've been spending a little bit more time learning some of the different tools, that are amazing in helping generate graphics or music or scripts for a video overlay. I mean, the creativity is amazing. Yet, I also see some tools that say, look, we'll help you write a book and this, And then I read some articles that Google can know the difference between, say, human content and content written by AI. And yet then someone showed me, oh, but there's this tool that takes AI content and makes sure that it's undetectable. Honestly, I don't really know who to believe, but people are teaching dealers, hey, generate the content in ChatGPT and then use this like de-anonymizer or whatever tool, and it makes it healthy. What's the truth about that? Or is it still an unknown area, Zach?
I would say there's degrees of unknown within this. We certainly don't know exactly to what degree Google can or cannot detect AI content, nor do we know at this point in time exactly how they treat it, although we have a better and better idea. The most important thing about use of AI for SEO purposes is not whether you used AI or not. It's whether you ended up with a truly valuable, unique piece of content at the end of the day. So
Right.
it's fine to use ChatGPT to write you a piece of content that you would need to cobble together because it will never produce an output long enough to be a valuable piece on its own. But if you build a piece of content with ChatGPT output and then you filter it through a tool that can rewrite and kind of de-AI it, and then you do your own editing and you inject a bit of your dealership or dealer group's brand voice and your unique value propositions that maybe it didn't quite capture. And then you fact check all of that AI content to make sure that it's accurate and current, which it necessarily will not be because of the way that it collects information. And you make sure that the grammar sounds like something a human really would have written, and it flows the way that you would expect a human grown piece of content to flow. So if you've engineered the prompts to get that output, you've passed it through something to de-AI it, and then you've done the edit and you've done the enhancements, and then you do the SEO interlinking and everything when you publish the piece of content to your website, it will probably have the intended effect. But all of the work that I just described costs money, right? Time is money. And whether it's your internal team or whether it's a vendor, it costs money to do all of that. So from the expertise required to properly generate the prompts to get the intended result, to the editing, which requires expertise, to the publishing, to the technical SEO components, it's not cheaper to do that than to hire a professional writer who understands how to write for SEO.
And understands the automotive industry.
Very much so. Right.
Yeah. So that's helpful because you're right. I think that if it helps someone get unstuck from a creative process and then edit it, I see it's a good tool. I just want to make sure dealers understand that if anybody's pitching them, hey, I can generate 20 articles using AI and charge you $500 a month. It's horse cocky that that they can believe that somebody is going to write a professional article for $200, well, not $200, $20.
Not only is that not going to be effective, but I think it was March of this year, the algorithm update that Google released included their new spam guidelines. And specifically, one of the things within this is called scaled content abuse for everyone watching. And scaled content abuse, whether it's human grown or AI based, is the practice of doing the minimum level of effort to get the most pieces of content spammed across your website so that you can game the system. And Google specifically looking for that. And they name generative AI content within the scaled content abuse section that they released information about. So they're looking for this. Yeah, and if you're trying to do 20 pieces a month of content for, dirt cheap, you're going to actually hurt your website in the process, not help it in any way, shape, or form.
Come on, speak the truth. Zach, one thing that I'm excited about is you're pioneering accountability. And dealers typically will tell their SEO company, these are some of the keywords I rank for, or excuse me, want to rank for, and they work towards that. But how they rank also varies to where their customers live. I want to talk a little bit about that, right? A dealer sits in their dealership and they do a search on rankings, but Google also knows where people live, and in a rural area, there might be, hey, if I'm a 30-minute drive, there may be other businesses and other websites closer to that area that may show up. How do you coach dealers in setting expectations for the keywords they want to rank for? Is it, hey, as long as the guy's testing the keywords in his office, that's the easy part. What's harder is to make sure it's working for the car shoppers in their PMA or adjoining ones. How does that work, and how do you communicate how rankings can vary by geography?
Yep. So, SEO results don't begin and end with rankings, but that's discovery, and it's critically important. So, rank over distance is something that we've talked about for a long time
Yes.
in, the videos we've aired at your conferences and basically anywhere someone will listen, we talk about rank over distance because everyone's intuitively familiar with this, but I feel like we forget about it when we look at vendor reports. If you Google Walmart, you get the closest Walmart. If
Yes.
you Google any local business, you get the closest ones first if it's a local business that you're searching for. And then if you go, somewhere else and you Google that exact same phrase, you get a different set of results because Google's going to serve
Right.
you location specific results. They know where you are. So the same is true of dealerships. If you're at your store and you search Ford dealers, you're going to have the most advantaged possible result. You're probably going to see yourself in position one if you're in your own store and you search for brand dealer for your store. If you go 30 minutes away, rural or metro, if you go some distance away closer to a competitor, those results will change. So it's critically important that if you're going to rank for your transactional keywords that are highly searched to bring in traffic, it's not just about where do you rank in your backyard. It's where do you rank over there, halfway between you and your competitor, all
Mm.
your competitor, beyond where your competitor is. If you're going to dominate your market area, it's not about just considering a pump in, pump out report because that's all of your marketing and your branding and everything considered. What about just your organic market dominance? And so I'm really glad that you brought this up because I had this printed out. So
Let's go. Let's go.
probably hard for
Talk to
everyone
us
to.
about this heat map. Dealers love heat maps, but more importantly, it's just not a cute color graph. It's something really powerful. Tell us what it is.
Extremely powerful. So what you're looking at here is, this dealership that we researched. It's their market area. They're not just their PMA, but their larger PMA. And I'll bring it back up after I explain it a bit more. So it's the whole area that they would want to be able to soak business from, and they're a Stellantis dealer. So what do? We go and we look at who is in position one across the entire market area, and then pattern that onto a heat map. So what you're looking at is if you're the dealer here in the red pin, well, you've got this little area that you're in position one for the keyword Jeep dealers in this case. And then all of these competitors own these different areas of territory. Think about it like, I don't know, playing the board game Risk or something like that, where you're trying to own more and more of the map, right?
Yes.
And you
Yes.
use content as the weapon in this war for market domination that you are on as a dealership, right? And so if you use your content and you aim it at locations around you and you do high quality content that is written for
Yeah.
the consumer, et cetera, and so forth, then what should happen is your geographical area that you are in position one for will grow and grow and grow. And so you can look at one of these heat maps really as a starting point to understand where am I not capitalizing organically. And it also tells you which of my competitors is eating my lunch in organic search right now, because it might not be who you think, and it might be a mix. And we might need to think about how are we going to attack each one of these competitors to be able to go after them in organic search. So the rank dominance heat map is something that we offer for free to any dealer who asks us for one. And there's over 100 data points, ranking data points in a typical one of these heat maps, compiled into something that is visually digestible, easy to understand. And we also, at the same time, do a heat map that shows your ranking, just your ranking, as you get further and further away. So where do you fall from position 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so on?
Love it. Love it. Well, these are the visual tools that help, bridge that gap between like looking at a search console or, a third party ranking table.
Sure.
Dealers, or I think anybody, a table of data is relatively confusing, can be interpreted different ways. Let's talk about something else. Tim and I, and if you remember, 'cause I know I've talked to Tim about it, there was a time when Google Maps or Google My Business or now Google Business Pro, what didn't exist. And then it existed. And initially, the ranking in the 3-pack of maps was the equivalent to what their website ranked at. And I've heard now a number of different people say something a little differently about reviews having an impact. And my gut tells me I'm not a firm believer of that, because I've done searches where Google Maps shows up and it mentions content on the website, meaning the Google Maps showed because I searched for something weird and it matched on the website, so it knew it was a navigational thing and it brought up, and it felt like, wow, it just can't be reviews. Reviews are easy to game, but maybe I'm a little old school, that it has a lot to do with the content, the schema data, the structure, and distance. What does reviews have today? The number of reviews. I mean, because like one dealer can have 5,000, the other one have 7,000. I mean, they're just so many reviews. Is it a thing, or is it still like black magic? We don't really know.
I would say it's not quite black magic. It's maybe a little bit nuanced and not, not quite a defined science, but reviews have a positive impact on your potential to show up a little bit better in Map Pack, but only to a degree. If your dealership has 4.4 stars with 5,000 reviews and your competitor has 4.5 stars with 5,000 reviews, it's probably not going to be a significant ranking factor. It might be a click-through rate factor, though, because the extra reviews are definitely going to get you a larger percentage of the clicks, even if you're not in the top spot. If you've got a better star rating, you're probably going to get a few more of those clicks because you're more trustworthy. I would focus on reviews being good for the sake of your reputation and whether people are going to trust and want to do business with you. And the knock-on effect is it will probably have a positive impact on your ability to rank in equal situations as a knock-on benefit.
Okay, let's talk about structured data. Man, it's been a while when structured data became a thing, and it's not that Google doesn't know how to decode a web page, but structured data surely helps their crawlers understand addresses, names of businesses in the context of an article that's mentioning many things. I haven't really talked about it in a while, so I'm actually interested. I don't know the answer, but it seemed like at one time the automotive website companies were doing a pretty good job with structured data. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. So when you take on a dealer, you're adding new content and just looking at the website in general, is the structured data on their core web pages good, or are you finding that requires some tweaking?
I would say for the majority of the mainstream website vendors, it's decent. Maybe not great, but decent. It doesn't usually require a lot of tweaking if it does. And I'm speaking to the core pages, the things that create your main navigational pages. It tends to be okay. And that's largely an equal playing field. So it's in some respects not something that needs a whole lot of concern. I think it's maybe a little bit overblown in some of the audits that I see some vendors running around with that are very technical in nature and very filled with busy work, where you yell at your vendor and they say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. That's a platform thing. Right. The busy work audits are not particularly helpful. And I'm trying to balance my feedback to dealers in terms of, yes, you want great structured data, and no, it isn't always great. Is that the first hill that you want to try and die on? I wouldn't say so. That being said, if you're adding, landing pages on transactional keywords that are going to be critically important to your SEO, well, you better make sure that you adjusted your structured data on those pages to be fit for your intent.
Right. There's some folks that have been educating dealers on site speed and how important site speed is. But there's like a quandary, and you brought this up about these technical reviews. I'm not saying it's a problem, but I'm using an example. If you're a Toyota dealer and you have SmartPath on your website, you really don't have a choice. So if you have a dealer reprocess website, or a Dealer Inspire website, and you're a Toyota dealer, the naked site, being like, man, that loads super fast. And then you add SmartPath. It's like, hey, maybe some days their tech is a little overwhelmed, their servers are overwhelmed, load time slows down. And then, hey, I put on a 360 spin tool, and then I put on a chat tool. And then I say to myself, well, is it the website company's problem? No. Is it the fact that there's 3 or 4 or 5, the service scheduler, the trade tool, the credit app? So when you are looking practically at site speed as it impacts SEO, what are you telling dealers when they get a report and says, man, your site speed sucks, your SEO is going to suck because Google is not going to serve your page up because it's so slow? And then the dealer says, but these are the tools that are on my website. Where do you sit in that argument? Because I've heard the conversations, and the website companies say, Brian, our pages look great. It's just all the other shit that gets bolted onto the website.
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a really tough one to navigate in a way that's actually valuable to anybody. My team, same as you and yours, have received no shortage of reports covered in red coming out of 20 group meetings because they were given an audit or they were given a tool that does an audit. And that's perfectly well-meaning. It is absolutely a ranking factor that you need to have a quick website that is user experience forward, especially for mobile. These things are very important. That being said, we have distributed fault and platform limitations baked into these platforms, whether it's the website vendor, or the chat vendor, or the digital retailing solution. And I don't want to say it is what it is because I'm not satisfied with the state of affairs in this arena, but getting substantial changes made in this area is virtually impossible. And it is creating a great deal of busy work for, I'm going to say, innocent vendors in the mix, and also for the dealers who are running around with these reports not understanding that the vendors who are responsible for the technologies are going to end up stonewalling them to one degree or another. Now, like you said, the website vendor usually is not the culprit. I would say
I think they're pretty much using the right tech. And listen, they don't want to be a slow website. I mean, they're probably more aware than anybody that speed impacts the website, but they can't control what the dealer bolts on or the OEM requires.
So to get like mildly technical for a moment, just as an example, I'm in the middle of fielding 2 different cases that our clients brought to us, and we're always fielding these. So we do an audit, and the first thing I caution my dealers is you're going to be frustrated with what you get for responses, but we're going to support it. Let's go ahead and do the due diligence and let's see what we can get. So we go and we do a speed check and we look at the core web vitals. And one of the most common offenders is going to be, and this is a bit technical, but cumulative layout shift, which basically just means that as the page was loading, some things jumped around, and that both slowed down the load and also it looks clunky to a user who's trying to load your page. Everyone's experienced this once or twice, by the way, as a consumer. Imagine you're loading a website and you go to click on a button as the site is still loading, and then it jumps out from underneath your cursor or your finger, and you click on the wrong thing, and then you end up.
Yeah, it's like rearranging the deck chairs, like. Yeah.
Yep. So it's very frustrating. Google rightly doesn't want to see things shifting around or a slow load. And so what do? You go to the website vendor, and then the truth is it's often the chat tool that is jumping around on the bottom of the page because that's having to load a script because it's contained within the website for everyone watching at home who may not be well versed in all of the nuances here. Your Goobagoo or CarNow or whoever's chat tool is not native to the platform, and so it has to behave within it, and that creates a loading problem. Now you go to Goobagoo and you say, hey guys, we need you to fix this. Well, it's Dealer Inspire or Dealer eProcess implementation of this. No, it's kind of not. And what we end up with is it's nobody's fault, or so everyone says.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, this is what happens when two disparate technology vendors do their best to work and play in the same website, but they have mild incompatibilities in the technology. And I don't have an easy fix for anybody. I don't. It's a nasty environment to get anything done in. What I can hope for is that one of the always emerging website vendors or maybe dealery process they work on being forward thinking can bake enough really useful ancillary technologies, peripheral technologies like chat and DR, et cetera, into their platform that can be OEM compliant, that you can have all of the things in one ecosystem, but that doesn't usually work out for everybody.
Yeah, and Dealery Process has done a great job of integrating their own trade, their own credit tools, and yet it's this double-edged sword. Dealers like, I want choice, but they don't realize choice comes at a cost, especially when rankings are so important. Zach, I really appreciate what you're doing to educate the dealer community. The last few conferences you've put together, I think the most thoughtful presentations, the most creative presentations to take something that may be a little dry, technical and creative SEO and turn it into magic. So I want to congratulate your creative team and just your thought process. It is super important. The customer experience today for shopping is longer. There's more choices. Now we have the EV, consideration. We have fears, about this EV, transition and now political, agendas influencing or the slowdown of this build out. And it just means that dealers have to make a decision where they're going to be in educating the consumer, how they're going to support the consumer during this shopping life cycle, and then how they're going to support the customer who owns that car over the life of their car. And it really comes down to content in different forms, right? And it's great to see that you've built a really high quality team of writers who understand automotive, understand SEO, understand, well, what it takes to have an impact. Yet there are, thousands of dealers who think spending $500 a month for SEO checks the box and, it's working. What do you say to a dealer who thinks that SEO is a $500 investment in their, I'm just going to pick a number, $40,000 a month marketing budget?
Yep, which is about what I have pegged for like a middle of the road monthly total marketing budget for one rooftop, right? So I often see, an SEM spend of 12,000 and third parties we're spending another 12,000 and we've got this and that and the other, but only $500 on SEO. $500 SEO doesn't cover the writing bill if you're doing it properly. Never mind all of the ancillary disciplines that go into producing the real deal. Really doing modern SEO, which is content forward, but needs to be very qualitative in its nature, very well considered, very heavily researched, and contains numerous different people that are not realistically going to have, you can't have all those skill sets in one person. Right. Which means you either need a vendor who can distribute that, or you need to be a group large enough to take the burden of having a team that has all those disciplines. It is costly. It just is. When you outsource the work overseas, you get basically many of the same problems that you get with AI. If you outsource it to AI, you get the same problem.
You get stuff that doesn't sound right.
Right. And I think that most dealers who look at the content, if they're getting any, from a vendor who's charging them $500, even quite a bit more than that, there are some website vendors that are, charging a line item fee for SEO, yet we see no tangible deliverable other than automatic replacement of like city 1, city 2, city 3 in their title tags, and maybe a blog here and there that's really short. Look at that and just intuitively think, is this materially improving the quality of my website? And if you don't think yes, Google doesn't either. So realistically, $500 a month, not only is that a drop in the bucket in the scheme of a typical single rooftop dealership's marketing budget, right? But it just intuitively doesn't make sense that you would be able to get all of this heavy lifting done within that. I'm not going to say that there's a particular number that you should or shouldn't be spending on SEO. Same as when someone asks me how much, what percent of my traffic should my organic be? Well, that completely depends on what you're spending on the other things.
That's right.
But you need to, I think dealers at large need to open their eyes to the fact that SEO is an extremely powerful tool in your marketing toolkit. It has continuing returns when done properly, as in you spend the same amount every month, but every month you see a larger return because you're ranking for more things. It is the highest quality traffic. Organic traffic is the highest quality traffic you can.
For sure.
And when done properly, even very relative to the norm, expensive solutions have tremendous ROI, more so than the other marketing solutions because of the way that they continue to compound over time. But I would encourage dealers to start thinking about the qualities and value of whatever solution you have, good or bad, and think about it less as a dollar figure that you're trying to get as low as possible, because it doesn't work that way for something that is more art than science.
Yeah. And, I'd like to wrap up our conversation today about the balance between SEO and SEM. Wikimotive offers both. And there are tactical things when dealers need what I want to say, demand gen now, right? SEO is not the immediate turn on the faucet and here's traffic. I've built my whole business on writing. I have over 700 articles on LinkedIn. They're all long form. I mean, meaningful, generally well thought out, including research. It takes a while to put them together, but I've found that content brings me dealer customers over time, even pieces that were written 6-9 months ago. But if I'm running a conference, I'm using pay-per-click, or paid media. And that's because I need demand gen. So I want to make sure that dealers don't misperceive that you are anti-paid search. But really, I think the thing that people don't talk about is most dealer websites don't have good landing pages for their paid media. And so with a content partner that's working on SEO, that can also go hand in hand to creating a better landing page experience for paid media. Am I tracking right the way you're thinking about this dance between content for SEO and content for paid media?
Yeah, so I'll say two things to that. Basically, you've got the constructive, the mutually constructive nature, and then also avoiding the mutually destructive nature. So if you're doing SEO and you're doing it right, you're producing great quality content, and some of that content will serve well as a landing location for SEM. Some of it will not. If someone searches F-150 for sale, don't land them on the F-150 towing capacity blog article that was built in support of the rest of the strategy. That is the wrong way to do that. That needs to land on an SRP.
Right.
That being said, there are numerous keywords that can play well landing on a landing page that is built for quality. So I would say that especially where you can inject inventory and it's an inventory-centric page, if you can have the inventory at the top, the content out of the way at the bottom, great way to approach that to serve both needs. So I think that they should be used to complement each other. At the same time, they can fill in for areas of search and focus that are complementary. So SEO is not great at going after really specific like year, make, model for sale type searches. Used F-150 for sale, 2020 F-150 for sale. Use VLA for that, please. Don't waste your money going after something overly specific in SEO when you can be more targeted with your SEM. At the same time, a lot of dealers are falling into the trap of focusing on that I want leads now, that lead gen, that opportunity generation priority. And they're both deprioritizing SEO, but also even if they are prioritizing SEO, they're forgetting that SEM can gobble up the SEO's impact. Because if you've gotten ranked through SEO for valuable keywords, but you continue to bid heavily on those things, Paid is intercepting that click higher up the page before as many people as should get down to your organic result, which is very true of branded search, but it's true of a number of areas if you're building up your SEO. So our approach, and if you can have multiple vendors, and as long as they're communicating, this is fine. But SEM and SEO need to talk to each other, same
Yes.
vendor or not. And there needs to be a focus on, let's not spend money on paid where organic has already covered that thing.
Come on.
With SEO or not. You're wasting your money, you're diminishing your result. And the thing that I see time and time again is some of the very SEM focused vendors on the market are perhaps, especially if they're taking a percent of spend as the payment model, and this is not everybody, but some of them are really wanting to focus on the SEM metrics looking good, potentially to the detriment of the greater picture. So for instance, PMax tends to produce appealing looking metrics, but it also tends to bid on branded search if you haven't negatived for it. And it has a tendency to overlap a lot with GBP.
Yeah.
So if you've not carefully carved that, what happens is the SEM metrics look great. The SEM vendor is defending that and then doesn't want to negative things out to play, good stewardship with the
They want to take credit for, that's why I said, in many cases, buying the dealer's name is just a waste of money, because either Google My Business or their homepage ranks perfectly for that. And, I've heard different arguments why, but, at one time, it may have been pennies to buy your own name. That's not the case today, and I've seen, dealers be paying over $3 a click for their own name. And I'm like, why? But needless to say, we've argued that till we're blue in the face, and we still find it happening all the time. Zach, I want to thank you for supporting dealer education. I want to thank you for reserving time to come to the Modern Retailing Conference, because in November, the 17th, 18th, 19th, we'll be back in beautiful Palm Beach, Florida. It's a beautiful time of the year to visit at the O Hotel. And this is where progressive dealers meet to learn about the latest strategies, the pivots, the opportunities for their business. And everyone has always said, man, we get a lot out of Wikimotive's presentation. So really looking forward to what surprises you may be bringing, and always really appreciated. And for dealers who haven't signed up for the Modern Retailing Conference, or we call it MRC, I want to encourage you, because the conference sells out every year. This is not a hard sell, but you will always walk away with saying, I met with the owners, I met with the technology leaders, I met with the progressive dealers, because it's an intimate event. We have about 300 people there. It's not NADA, and it's not the basics of digital dealer. It is something quite unique, and I want to encourage you to get your leadership team out to the Modern Retailing Conference, but it will sell out. And this conference also allows members of the vendor community to attend, but at the end of September, those tickets are locked. So then from after September 30th, it's just dealers. We want to make sure as many dealers get out to experience the excellent content and speakers. We'll be talking about CDPs, identity resolution, marketing automation, SEO, the importance of creating a modern retail experience that includes just changing the way our mindset is about always being leads, and focusing on opportunities and looking for new use cases to use data to sell more cars in a digital age. So make sure you come out to the conference. Zach, you've been there before. Why do you like the Palm Beach event each year?
Well, Palm Beach is not a terrible place to go, but aside from that, the education forward environment is always incredible, and it's a very close-knit, intimate setting. We've always viewed MRC as the best conference of the year, second only to DMSC. And the thing that our dealers comment every time we get somebody out for the first time is, oh my goodness, this was so different than what I expected from XYZ conference. Like you said, they're shocked at the amount of information they get from it, how authentic it is. And also, word to the wise, be prepared for long days of learning. It is definitely not just the hang out with your buddies kind of conference. It's an information dense experience in a great way.
I like that, information dense. Well, If you haven't booked your tickets, go to modernretailingconference.com. And if you are listening to this podcast for the first time, this is one of a whole series of interviews with the vendors, the leaders, the speakers leading up to the Modern Retailing Conference. So on your popular podcast player, just search for the Brian Pasch podcast and listen into all of the people who will be attending MRC. But don't wait. If you're excited about some of the things that Zach was saying, or if you want to get your free heat map and assessment, just go to wikimotive.com and request that. It's free. And more importantly, you'll get a chance to see geographically how you're ranking, how your competitors are ranking, and we'll just start a different conversation about the coverage for local search. And here's one thing, you will never get off a phone call with Zach and the team and not say, wow, I didn't learn anything. They're just talking about old stuff. No, it's always new. They're pushing the envelope. So make sure you go to wikimotive.com before MRC. And then also when you're coming, book a dinner, a lunch with Zach and his team. Don't wait to the last minute because Zach's schedule will get awful busy. And so we're going to have a good information dense, learning dense experience, but not for dense people, but for the people who really want to learn. So I look forward to seeing you, Zach, the Wikimotive team, and all of you down in Palm Beach. First come, first serve. But until then, have a great day. And don't forget to listen to this whole series leading up to Modern Retailing 2024. See you then and on a next podcast interview.